let's talk about the last part here when you divide. So I've got cube root of k squared over the 6th root of k. It's important to note here that these have the same base value. These numbers have to be the same before you can do anything with these. So since those are the same, I'm going to turn these back into fractional exponents. So this would be k to the 2/3 over k to the 1/6. So again, what happens whenever you have the same base, then you can subtract the exponents. So this would be k to the 2/3 subtract 1/6. So in order to subtract exponents, I need it to be the same base value. So I'm going to make them both over 6. And this would go to 4/6. So it'd be k to the 3/6 or k to the 1/2. Here's example 14. Why don't you pause the video, try it yourself. The cube root of n to the 7th over square root n. Remember, we can only work this problem because they both have an n under the radical. So this would be n to the 7/3 over n to the 1/2. So I can simplify by subtracting. By the way, I have more on top, right? So my answer should be positive. So I'm going to make them both a 6 for a denominator. So this would be 14/6 minus 3/6, which would be n to the 11/6. So this is a little more than one full n, because n to the 6/6 would just be n. So this is actually more. Okay, let's go to example 15. There's some in Delta Math that say something like this: x squared 4th roots of x to the 5th would be the same as x to what power? So when you see something like this, it's really just asking you to simplify. If I have this, I could really simplify this down to x to some power, and they're asking you to tell them what the power of a would represent. What would a represent in this case? So I've got to try to put this together somehow. So I'm going to notice here that they both have the same base value, x. So I'm going to turn them both into fractional form so I can work with them. This is x to the 2nd power times x to the 5/4 power. So they have the same base number, so I can add them. X to the 2nd plus 5/4. I'm going to make them have both the 4th power. So this turns into 8. So this would be x to the 13/4. So if they ask me what a represent, a would be 13/4. Okay, here's example 16. The 4th root of x to the 5th over x to the 3rd. And the way this is worded in Delta Math is they ask you to say, okay, this would be x to what power? So we're trying to figure out, simplify this down to just x to some power. So I'm thankful that both of these have a base x. They don't, however, both have the 4th root, so I'm going to have to turn this one into a fraction. And now that they have the same base, I can subtract the exponents. And then I'm going to give them the same denominator. So the answer would be x to the negative 7/4. So in this particular case, a would be negative 7/4. I'll give you one more to try before we move on to this next part. And the next part will go pretty quickly. So this is x squared over the cube root of x. So this would be x squared over x to the 1/3, which means that I'm going to subtract I'll get a common denominator of 3. So the answer would be x to the 5